Yeah. Great. Good afternoon. My name is Everybody, as you might know, yes. And we have assembled this forum to discuss student organization partnerships. This is a very important issue because by having a student organization partnership, students are taking action on real-world problems. Today, we have two organizations joining us, Operation Smile and Documents. I would like to ask each of our panelists to introduce themselves briefly and say why you are with dedication.
My name is Frederick Kulovich, and I started working with Operation Smile when I was in 7th grade, so that was about 5 years ago. I started in Operation Smile because my grandfather was also involved, and it ended up being almost a family kind of tradition where every mission we all go. And eventually we started the club here at school. And throughout all that time, I had a lot of backup from the organization, where if I ever needed anything for a bake sale, like they wanted teddy bears to sell at the sale or whatever, the organization would just send them over. They made it a lot easier. They also gave us a lot of opportunities to go to conferences. We've traveled anywhere from Colorado to Washington, D.C. to Panama to Beijing to all of these different places. And we've gotten a lot of different opportunities throughout the organization. And they helped us with starting the club when they came to school. They gave lots of talks. When we just started the club, we asked them to come give a presentation to give kind of an idea of what Operation Smile was. And that really helped people be motivated to be in our club and really enjoy, like, they can see the difference of what they're doing. And the organization basically made our lives a lot easier, starting the club, running the club, having events run, and all kinds of stuff.
Hi, my name is Teresa. I prefer to speak in Spanish if anybody has a problem with that. Yes. I started working in Operation Smile 3 years ago. As a kid, I take pictures in the OR for the patients. Then the last year I started working as coordinator with the trust. It's a very nice experience because you working with the kids in school is amazing to see how they feel when they can help another person. It's a very nice experience.
I'm Carla Sorelli. I started with the idea of Dalias Jr. in 2012 when in the summer me and Catalina Pozo, she's our tech today, we volunteered at the same veterinarian. And after that, we saw that we had the same interests and we wanted to help homeless dogs. Miss Yama, one of our school's teachers, saw our interests and she told us about Dalias. And now she met them through Facebook and through their page. And we got in contact with them. And after that, we just began emailing, getting together, having meetings. And we came up with the idea of Dalias Jr., where right now we have 32 students volunteering from high school. And what we do is we go to their shelter, we give care to the dogs, and we just help with anything they need. We volunteer in any activities they have. We do fundraisers for them. And yeah, after that, it's been a great experience because more and more people from our school want to get involved. Because at the beginning, it was like, oh, just another club. But now more people know about us and more people are interested. So.
Okay, I'm also Carla Lama, and I'm the co-founder of Doggy House. We began this organization in 2009. In my case, I've always loved dogs, but something more particular about the situation in my country made me want to do something more. There came a moment in my life where I decided to just stop feeling sorry for the dogs and start doing something about it. I'm not a vet. I just love animals. We started this organization helping them, rescuing them from the streets, taking them to vets, and then finding homes for them, suitable homes. When Carla contacted me, I was very happy and very pleased, and at the same time very surprised to see how young people were beginning to have an interest in what we did. This is not an easy job, and I think we know that by now. So it was very interesting to see what they were going to do with this Doggy House Junior Club. And I can say that up until now, I can see that they have been doing a great job.
Thank you. Everyone, please join me in welcoming our panelists with a round of applause. This panel, I just want to say that this panel is open for discussion, so any questions you might have, just go ahead. But I'm going to begin the discussion by asking the panelists to, how do these partnerships begin? I mean, you were started because of a family-oriented idea, and you were started because, hey, on Facebook, is there a way to get in touch with the organization, or that depends on the organization?
Well, often it's basically a common interest with the organization where you're passionate about whether it be because someone in your family has the same thing as the people that you're helping, or you're just a nice person and you really want to help a certain cause. And it's really easy. All you have to do is contact the organization. Often, these types of organizations have many things that they need help with, and they'll always have a spot for you to volunteer at. And no organization is going to be like, no, I don't want your money. So these types of organizations are usually very welcoming, especially to students who are going to be the generation who's coming up and who's going to have the ability to do something about the problems that they're already taking care of.
I have the same answer. It all depends on your interests. If you really like it, then you'll really ask, and you're gonna pursue on sending them emails. And if they don't respond, you'll keep on sending them until you get the answer you want. Because it all depends on what you like and what you want to do with it. So it's all interest.
Any questions?
We were talking about many students getting involved. Are they all trained students also, or anyone could be part of it?
Yeah, right now, like we began in our last school year, we began with only high school students. And this year, we still have the same idea, but we are encouraging other schools to add the club to the program, because other schools have clubs too. So we've been sending emails, like that has been our goal this year, to influence other schools to add it to them. Like right now, we've had replies from Babeque, which is a school here in Santo Domingo, and San Michael, who want to add it next year. So we hope to get new members from other schools.
So you do it like in the school, like
Yeah.
field members of the school get together.
We actually had the same experience where at first we only had students from the school, not necessarily GIN members. A lot of them actually already knew that conference, but we started expanding to other schools like Mundi, St. George, Cement, all of these schools. And our next goal within our school is to get the word out to middle school or elementary school and try to involve the different age levels, because when you go into high school knowing about a club, and if that's the only club you know about, then you're like, oh yeah, I want to join that one because I've heard about it since like elementary. So it kind of like involving different age groups really helps your club and the mindset of the kids that you're trying to reach.
Any more questions?
Would this also work with like organizations like UNICEF and the Red Cross, similar way?
I personally have never gone with, I haven't asked or reached out to them, But I guess so. It's the same thing. You just ask, and if they say yes and they accept, then it's all up to you.
Each organization has different things that they can offer you. So yes, you could have a club, for example, we just had for any really organization. It's basically just keeping in contact, being aware that you are using their name, which is basically what you really need permission for to start the club. So them being aware that you're using their name, and then whatever really they want to give you. But other than that, they would never mind for fundraising or stuff like that. As long as they know that you're using their name, I'm sure that it'll be fine.
When you participate in basic clubs, do you have a certain structure you're used to implement it in school, and always after school, and sometimes during school, or how does it, what does the structure look like when you're setting something?
It all depends on the school. For example, in our school, most club meetings are during lunch. So people either, depending on the club, people go get their food and then go to the meeting, or they know I have to eat during break and then I'll go to the club meeting. Other schools, like St. George, they have the club meetings after school. So it really all depends on the organization of how the school works and how the principal likes to run things and the availability of the sponsor of the club.
So that is, how do you keep the students more, you have some students who have a passion, very leaders for fun and sometimes it's not a class, sometimes it's hard to get them involved sometimes because they don't have a brain behind something like this. How can you make sure to keep it as kind of the goal and attainable, achievable, that we keep the inspiration going for the students?
Like for us, this year, since we had already a year that we experimented with the club and all, we made sure to, because the first time we got like 52 members, which was a lot. And you sometimes see those who are slackers, those who, they're just there for the hours. And then you have those who really want to be there, who really like the cause. And so this year we focused on, we had these like 3 questions. And depending on what your answer was, and the fact that you turned it in on time, it showed us that you really like the club and that you're actually interested. And through that, we knew who to accept and who not to accept.
So it was based on
Yeah.
We do a little bit differently where since, for example, with Operation Smile at least, what we do is extremely tangible. Like you can actually see the difference and it's huge. So what we do is the slackers, a lot of them it's because they haven't been to missions or something like that. So then when they go to missions and they see the difference that they're making, they're not just raising funds for some organization somewhere. They're actually going out and helping and seeing the doctors and being available for whatever they need. And they feel like they're actually making a difference versus I'm just setting a couple bucks to an organization. So usually it has to do a lot with the things that the organization can offer the kids as to events and experiences. Because like we go to conferences every year that the conference that the organization, the international one, organizes. So then stuff like that, having things available for the students to do to keep them really motivated is kind of like how you keep the slackers in check or make them want to do something.
And that's like adding to what he said with the activities. We keep, since Doggy House has many activities, they have Galería 360 where they have adoptions, and they do fundraising. And they have many activities where they involve the dogs that they rescue, they educate people, and it's a lot of stuff going on. So we, every day, like when she needs help volunteering, I make sure, we have a group on WhatsApp, and I make sure to tell them, okay, so here is what, like this is the new upcoming activity, who wants to volunteer? And then you get 5 or 10 people who really want to volunteer, and they're like, oh my God, me. Then you know, okay, you do know that you have to come. You just said like you're fully committed, you have to come. They're like, yes, we want to go. So after that, it's all about getting them interested in the topic and them wanting to go. That's what it's all about.
I just want to like a little bit that you have a lot of clubs in the school. I think you mentioned about 12 or 15 clubs or maybe more. How does that, maybe it's not related to this particular session. So how does it connect with like GIN students? Because if you what if you are a GIN member, okay, then how can you be a member of the other club also? Okay. And how do you like say a GIN member is a member of this club and is a member of your club, another member of GIN is a member of your club, then how do
Like, you mean how do we?
how does it balance at the end? At the end, how do you balance like the GIN? Because then GIN is also a club by itself, right?
It all depends on like the student itself. Where there's certain students that are outgoing and they can do 50 things at once. So they can be a part of like 12 clubs and keep their grades up and a lot of club activities of what you're allowed to and not allowed to do is tied to your grades. If your grades are falling, then you're not allowed to do many activities that are extracurricular. So it depends on the student a lot. But for example, with Operations Smile, we don't require them to do, like we don't have a minimum activity of like, hey, you have to do this amount a month for to be in the club. We're kind of flexible on that and we just like say, all right, well, okay, are you available at this time? No, okay, can you do this time? And we're like, okay, yeah. So then it's kind of just like, we fit around their availabilities and since we have so many members.
But then coming on the same, sorry, if anyone like then, for example, if they have to go and represent at a GIN conference, wouldn't there be a conflict, like a group that's probably worked with the house wants to represent that at the conference, and another group that has worked with X or Y or Z club want that, and you only have 3 teams that can represent at a GIN conference, then how do you resolve those conflicts? Like which team do you select to go for the GIN conference?
For our school, they made us do we had like
An application process.
we had an application and you had to fill it out and it explained why your club would be the best for GIN, how would it represent GIN, what does how your club, which issue does it represent, in what ways, and through there, the group here, like Mirna and Miss Libby, they picked out the groups who could be.
And they also made it so that it wasn't just the workshops that you could be involved in GIN. You had the options of making a video, or you could do a workshop where you could have a table, or you could have a table and a workshop, or you could have a table and a video, or all 3. So it wasn't just through workshops that you could be involved in GIN and participate with the
You mean
club.
at the conference?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you didn't have to necessarily present?
You know, you could
You
have a
could be
video.
attending, you could be, I saw some students just attend.
Yes. You could have a video, you could have a table, or you could have a workshop, or all 3, or 2 of them, or any combination.
So a non-GIN member can also help and come and present at the conference?
All about
They don't exactly present. They have at the assembly this morning, they had a bunch of videos of a lot of different clubs, and some of them didn't have workshops. So that was how they presented their club in GIN. Because for example, some of the clubs don't like while they do a lot of work, they don't have like a substantial material to talk for 40 minutes about their club or stuff like that. So they just chose the application process.
Kind of just pipe in. From Venezuela, it seems like we kind of running into the same issue. We have a very small school and a lot of different groups that are doing GIN presentation worthy stuff.
Right.
But traditionally, just our GIN kids are the ones that went to the conferences. And so we're kind of looking at GIN as being kind of an organizational higher level, and all these different clubs feeding into it. And like they said, having an application process and seeing which projects are the most conference ready, whether it be from a student council source.
Yeah, I get that, but my only question is that in order to, so you don't have to be a GIN member,
Right.
you know, you can just be a club member, you don't have to be a GIN member.
That's kind of what we're thinking of, kind of changing the structure of our school.
But that's a little like, you know, and we have a smaller school, so it's kind of hard to think that you can be a club member and not be a
Right.
GIN member, be a GIN member, you know.
And so GIN kind of
GIN is like the umbrella, the overall
An umbrella
umbrella, and then we do
organization,
various
yes.
projects under the umbrella of GIN.
Right.
That's how we do it back then. So I kind of found it's a little different from the culture of our school.
Also, I want to mention just for a second. GIN or GIN here is not an actual club. I mean, it kind of is, but it isn't. It's more, this conference came by too quickly before we could establish an actual club with people that they do a certain topic. So when this option came, everybody's like, hey, are you worried about the environment? Yes. Do you want to help people? Do you want to support this conference? Okay, you know what? Let's all go in. If in the next months after this conference, after we review and see all that went well, all that went bad, then I guess the gym club would be established. But that was, at least to my knowledge, it hasn't.
Also, you do not have a form with like a gym.
Exactly, not formal.
Oh,
There's
okay.
an organization for this conference. However, maybe a potential gym club itself could be established.
So I had the kids that participated last year in the gym conference. One day part of the club.
That was CC, which is
Uh-huh.
it's not a GIN club. It's a club.
It's
that
another
does
thing.
something.
So she said which were the ones that
Uh-huh.
went to the
Yeah.
gym.
Like, it was, like, we're not in a GIN club, we're a part of Operation Final or Doggy House that is attending GIN to present to the
Uh-huh.
Okay, see, again, I didn't know that any other club could present at the town
Yeah.
conference. I did go on an understanding that only gym members can present.
No,
Oh,
Can be
no.
represented or can present at the,
that's what I wanted to figure out.
because that's never been made clear, it's the first time I'm hearing this.
We're just a normal club.
And are you guys required to be in public school?
No.
So it's all very,
All want to have.
Yeah.
But you're required to have a certain amount of community service hours. So that kind of,
okay, sorry. And so if you're in a club, if you're in a club, you can come as community service.
The activities you do.
Just the activities.
Uh-huh.
the clubs give out community service hours at their discretion. So for example, for a mission where we work 12 hours a day, if they work the 12 hours, they get the 12 hours of community service.
So when the person keeps track of community service, do you guys have like a committee that keeps track of that's a community service?
There's a Eden Arthea, she's the community service director, and she's the one that's in charge of, if you did a certain amount of community service hours, you have to write a paragraph about your experience and turn it into her with the amount of community service hours, and she logs them.
Do you guys have the same type of setup? Do other clubs go through the same type of process in terms of planning? When you have one like set process that the school has that all the clubs use when you're like, planning something, reflecting something?
Like for when we're planning an activity or let's say a trip for Dahlia's for the shelter, we have to fill out a form that has to be approved by our principal, and it has to be signed out. So so the school knows that we are doing the trip. So for example, the school only allows us to go to the shelter with a school security and a chaperone. That's the only one. Or if you go on your own time. But that's different. That wouldn't be like school related. But it'll still be the club. And then in order for Mirna and Sarah, who's her assistant, to know that you did the hours, if you do them alone, not in the club, you have a form which you sign, and the director of a certain organization or place signs it off, and with their, you see their organizations have their stamp, their official stamp. Well, they put it and they sign it off, and that's how they know that you did go there, and that you did do the hours that the form says. And then you make a reflection explaining what you did, how was your experience, did you like it, and all that, and then it's all.
Yeah, like how many hours do you have to complete? Or is it just options?
The school now requires 50 per high school year. So at the end, you have
60.
60, yeah.
Depending on
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
sometimes
they
you can
recently
exceed.
changed the rule where it's supposed, it used to be 10 per year, they've increased it to 15 per year, so if you're, depending on where you were in high school when they changed the rules, how much you need to graduate, but it's from anywhere from 40 to 60.
Is it the same doggy house
Yeah,
operation?
they're all
It's high school wide, so even if you're not a part of any club, you're still required to have a minimum amount of community service hours to graduate.
We, under the GIN umbrella, we do not give any hours. There are no community service hours. It's all voluntary.
Yeah.
That's, like all the work that they do not receive any hours. We do it voluntarily, totally voluntary.
Do you find it, yes, no, so our gym committee right now, we're planning a summit next fall, and we're in the process of finding sponsors and doing fundraising, and it's become
quite a task. So I was wondering if you guys had anything that worked for you in terms of fundraising or reaching out to sponsors. We had the idea of sponsor letters, but I don't know if you have any.
Yeah, we do. Operation Smile is basically run by our sponsors. So we have a lot of different formats for sponsor letters. If for example, we want to go get sponsors, we personally go to the company, speak to the presidents or the people in charge of giving the thing, because it's kind of like a more personal thing, and you can really like push the envelope in there versus on the phone. And usually, like for example, we don't always take monetary sponsors, so we take a lot of like, if we're gonna decorate the rooms of the patients, we take a lot of decorations and we to the volunteers, we put them up, or food, water, Coke, whatever. We take items as well.
Where are the patients?
The patients,
Yeah.
they're from all around the Dominican Republic, and they come with buses, public transportation, or whatever thing.
But they go to a specific place?
Each mission is in a different hospital each year. Usually we rotate between them. There's anywhere from 2 to 3 missions a year, where we operate in one of the missions 90 to 100, in other missions 30 to 40. And then we announce the hospital with a lot of time before, so they know what it is, because we a lot of time to organize and all that stuff. So it's not any specific hospital. It's usually either the capital or in the provinces that are near.
Rob, what province?
One called La Romana and La Vega. And there was one in Iguay.
We provide transportation of the residents.
Well, to conclude this panel, we'll have one last question, because we have 10 minutes, so let's see. So, did you have any hardships establishing your club? Or what's the hardest thing to do in your club as heads?
Making people passionate about what you're passionate about. Like, it's hard without showing them exactly what you do. Because if at first, for example, if no one's been to a mission or they haven't seen an Operation Smile video or they've never seen a before and after picture and they don't know exactly how much we help people, then they're just like, oh yeah, okay, I'm just gonna go do some fundraisers, I'm gonna go community service hours, whatever. So it's kind of just like motivating the kids to like make them realize that even a lot of people say that we're teenagers, what can we do? We can't really make a difference. But like Operation Smile showed me exactly the opposite, where the 95% of the volunteer base of Operation Smile is all kids from high school or university. And so it's kind of just like making them see what you're doing and how they can actually feel useful and help everyone.
For us, it was when we began, many people didn't, like in our school, they did not know what Doghouse was. Therefore, it was hard for them to know what we were doing. So we had, before actually establishing the club, we had to go to the shelter. And we had to know more about Doghouse. So the hard part was getting people, like the people who signed up for the club. Since we didn't know that we had to get people who were really passionate about it, some people were there for the hours. And so it was all about getting them to really want to volunteer. And at the beginning, it kind of sad that we used it as our thing for people to come to us. But we were like, oh my God, you're going to play with dogs, you're going to be with animals. And that's what motivated most of them. And then after 1 year, this year, they're like, oh my God, I have to be in your club. I really need to be in your club. And with the variety that we have in our school of clubs, and seeing how they asked, they begged to be in our club. Because some of them couldn't turn in the slips when they were due. So some of them came to me, to Catalina, begging to like, please let me be in your club. And still, we have some who ask to come to our trips, even though they're not in the club, because they really, like, they see the pictures in Facebook. They see pictures posted here in our assemblies, and they're like, I really want to go. I know I never signed up, but I do want to go. So it's all about getting them to like it and to be interested.
Well, as we conclude our panel discussion today, I'd like to thank our panelists for being here today and for helping us have an interesting discussion on this important topic.